Wonderful to be here. So I have a question for you.
Oh boy, we started.
We're going to converse. We'll leave plenty of time for your questions, I promise. Everyone is always asking us about, this book, but for you, why this book now specifically?
Okay. Well, hi everybody. Thank you for coming out to your local, very sexy independent bookstore to support us and the store itself. So I've had my entire career has been based around food and coming together with people, much like Andrew has pioneered in the storytelling, of which I was born and raised in a very multi-ethnic neighborhood in Washington, D.C., where food was a means to explore how we exist together in our new places together, and how do we forge a communal existence. I have worked my way through restaurants all over the world, including working as a fisherman in Morocco for a while, living in Spain. Came back to Washington, D.C., running Jose Andres' restaurants for a time before setting out onto my own. And in all of this, I was sort of crescendoing towards this idea that, well, I wanted to do something with food more than just the sum of ingredients that we put on our plates. I got very interested in sustainable seafood. To me, seafood is just the most interesting ingredient category. This is something that Andrew and I struggled with during writing this book, is that it's so compelling. There's so many incredible ingredients, so many dishes that we could have done. Like, how the hell do we get down to 140? Right? And it's just such a compelling category to me that becoming very interested in using that as my catalyst. And for the last 20 plus years or so, the sustainable seafood dialogue that Andrew and I have both been leaders in, but upon many others' shoulders we still stand. The dialogue was about, hey, people, there's so much going wrong with seafood. We gotta fix seafood, right? And it's kind of the typical environmentalism, we're guilty, right? Shape up, do better. But in the time since, so much has begun to go right with seafood. And yes, there is yet so much that we need to fix. There are horrible abuses. But there's also incredible, inspiring stories about how the ingredient category as a whole is now not just a problem to be solved, but rather a tool by which we begin to fix other problems. Whether it's positive environmental, economic, public health outcomes, whether it's women's economic empowerment in the developing world through economic opportunity, through aquaculture, whatever it is. All of a sudden, seafood is the wrapping by which we present the solution to other issues, right? And we get to do so deliciously, right? Health, sustainability, environmentalism, these are all ideas until we pick up a fork, at which point they become actions. And when we can do so deliciously so, it begins to get back to that idea of communion, of our commons. How do we forge a common existence here on this planet through food? And Andrew and I just happened to think, maybe we should do this through seafood. So that's why this book now.
I love that. When you sit down to write recipes, do you have a process?
Oftentimes it's remember what I did last night, try and recreate it again. Pass it by you, you say, ooh, yeah, that sounds
well, not
great.
necessarily for
but,
this.
But I do this instead, and then we go back and forth, and dinner is also survival in my house. I have a 5-year-old and a 9-year-old, right? There's some things that are just absolute victories. Like they don't know that Annie's mac and cheese doesn't come without tuna in it. It's just always been that way, huh, Dad? Like, weird when I go to friends' houses, it doesn't taste the same. I don't know what that's about, right? But a lot of the time it's trial and error, and it's just recalling incidences of inspiration. And how did you come up with the recipes for this book?
Well, it's the same way I do anything. I'm inspired by something. I see something that I like, or I eat something that I like, or someone tells me that I'm having brunch with a friend and they order a Bloody Mary and the server says, we dust our rim with cardamom chilies and sumac, and my friend is like, ugh, and I'm like, ooh, that sounds really great for chicken. I mean, just that's typically how it happens. I think, and this is the best metaphor that I've come up for how to describe it to folks who struggle in the kitchen a little bit, is I sometimes just dream it or think it, but like a musician that can, hum a few bars and then start playing it, if I think about it, I've been cooking for long enough that I'm like, wow, if I want to take those flavors and I could put it on chicken, but what if I made a, cardamom, sumac, whatever I said, chili, savory cookie to go with something. Like, I can start to just do as opposed to sort of like struggle through something. So, but writing this book, I thought was actually very easy. Like you were sort of hinting at, there's 7,000 recipes that I think we both wish were in here. Some of my favorite recipes, just either the editor didn't like, or we already had too many versions of it, and I'm thrilled with the 145 we have. But I always want more. That's sort of like my disease. It's called more. But something that you said earlier, I wanted to circle back on about the deliciousness and the volume of seafood. We've been doing interviews together for about a month prior to kicking off the tour, right? People's podcasts or magazine interviews or things that, when you have a book coming out, people want to talk to you, and then they'll push it out to their audiences this week when the book comes out. And one of the things that keeps coming up for us again and again is there's one kind of chicken. We eat one species of chicken. I mean, that's really it. I think there's technically 3, on planet Earth. But we just eat one of them. And the big question regarding chicken is,
White or dark?
and we eat one species of cow, right? For which the question is usually, what cut, or fresh or frozen, right? And nobody blinks an eye when it comes to frozen beef or frozen chicken. Not an eye. I mean, everyone, for some reason, with seafood, fresh or frozen, everyone has an opinion on that. Wild or farmed, everyone has problems with one and thinks the other one is faultless, when in fact there's good and bad actors in both spaces, right? We're agnostic to it. But more importantly, or maybe most importantly, there's 10,000 edible things in our water systems around the world with infinite variety of flavors and textures and sizes and shapes, and it is just overwhelmingly, to me, fascinating and absorbing and a bigger challenge to cook with. So when it comes to recipes, right? If I see a fish that maybe I've never seen before and I cut it open and I'm like, oh, this looks snapper-ish, or I can recognize the family name from some Latin word or whatever it is. Like, I have an idea about what I want to do with it, but good luck with a whole sea squirt in a seafood market in Korea. What do you do with that if you've never seen it before? And I only bring that up not because of some of my more popular TV work, but just because of the endless fascination with this ingredient, this family of ingredients, right? It's just so much more fun as a chef, whether I have my professional hat on or whether I'm just making dinner at my house. I just think it's fantastic. I'd rather cook seafood than anything else for that reason.
So that sense of discovery was how I ran one of my restaurants. My flagship is called Hook. We served about 150 different species in the first year that we were open. The vast majority of that we were able to do because we had built up trust. People knew that when they came in on Monday, the menu would be one thing. They knew that when they came back on Friday with their friends, that it would be 90% different. We had 13 different fishermen fishing houses that we worked with, and I could buy whole boats. Our restaurant was so big, and we had a couple of rules. One was like, if you catch it, I'll buy it, with the exception of sharks, mermaids, mermen, turtles, dolphins, whales, but pretty much everything else. Like, if you're operating under a good management system and being responsible, then great, we'll buy it. And I had this one vendor, and we were about to do 700 dinners. It was a Thursday night. I reprinted my menus about every day, about 4 o'clock, when we finally got everything all together. And my fish just hadn't come from him yet, and it hadn't come. And this is the Dimmons seated table, and it hadn't come. And I've been on the phone with him all afternoon. I was like, "Where's my fish?" You know, using, of course, the kind, competent language the chefs always do. And these were fishermen out of Tobago, and they were going hand lining, literally meaning tie hooks to strings, tie strings to fingers, go out on a canoe, on a pirogue, right? And they were going to go out in the reef, and they were going to catch wahoo or mahi or barracuda or blackfin tuna. And the box just never arrived, and it didn't arrive, and it finally arrived. And I opened it up, and I was like, "Thank God." And I was like, "What the is that?" And I called up Michael, and "Michael, what did you send me?" He's like, "Well, the guys had a bad day fishing, but I didn't want to leave you in the lurch, so I sent you all the leftover bait." And in this box, I had about 150 pounds of flying fish. Anybody seen a flying fish before? It's a mackerel crossed with a pterodactyl. And I was like, "I got this. Cool." And we just dove right in. I mean, I pulled all my cooks off the line. We filleted them up, took the wings off, all that, rolled them up, threaded them onto a rosemary skewer, marinated them with a little bit of chopped fresh tarragon, Meyer lemon zest, a little bit of olive oil. Woo! We smoldered them over the slow, sexy heat of the rising smoke on the wood grill over there, served it on a bed of juniper and Vidalia onion broth, braised summer squash. Bam! A little herb salad with some mint on top of that. $24 is a special night here. Lionfish, folks. And we sat back there, and I told the servers exactly what happened. And you watched all of them go like, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, you'll never guess what's going to happen tonight, blah, 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 blah." And all the people in my restaurant said, "I'll have that." And we were sold out by 6 p.m., right? And it was this idea of, wow, discovery needs to be handheld by trust, right? And it was that idea, like, we could sell anything because we got excited about it. Because we had that innate knowledge of, like, okay, I basically know what to do with this. And that's one of the things that we really explore in the book, is that confidence and competency that you can learn from this book in your own kitchen, to walk into a store and to say, "Well, I had cod in mind tonight, but along with cod comes haddock and hake and cusk and ling and monk and wolf, skate dog, eel, ray, pat, play, stab, flounder, witchback." I mean, I could go on, right? You want boss, swat, dry, catfish. I mean, I could go on, right? These are all flaky white flesh fish, folks. They're all going to look very similar to cod. Do they have their nuances? Of course they do. But if you braise them in a spiced shakshuka tomato sauce, serve them over an almond flecked brown rice pilaf, a little bit of cilantro over top, ooh, some lime juice, hot sexy now, right? Does it matter what kind of fish you bought? No, it really doesn't. And so by opening ourselves up to that diversity, to that variety, we are inherently participating in a more sustainable system that's based on supply rather than on demand. You're going to get a better product because you're going to get the freshest and best thing in the case, which is probably going to be at a better price because now is the season for it. And that idea of sort of culinary categories of seafood, learning how to really just know what to do with what's in front of you on an inherent level is something that we feel is a foundation of sustainability, but also of great cooking and how we organize the book in those culinary categories.
I thought the point of that whole story was
I didn't quite know where I was going the whole time.
Food is good. Food with a story is better. Food with a story that you are familiar with is better than that, but food with a story that you're familiar with but you haven't heard before is best of all. And the opportunity to eat a new species, if a restaurant that you trust because you've been there before, they're sort of giving you, that restaurant's giving you permission to experiment because the server in whom you put your trust for the evening, at least I hope they are deserving of it, and I hope that you do it when you're out, allows you to take a little bit of a risk, right? Take a little bit of a risk. What's the worst thing that happens? So when you go into a seafood shop or a supermarket or anywhere that you're buying your seafood, we want you to be more concerned with where it's from and how it was handled than whether or not it's what you had in mind for eating necessarily that night. If you are in late May, early June, and you just have to have salmon, and you walk into a local seafood shop here, well, guess what? You couldn't be buying it at a better time of year in terms of just, if you happen to like some of those West Coast king salmon, but some people may like a different type of salmon, right? Or a different orange fleshed fish. There are lots of them. But it's very confusing for all of you when you, because I see people in the supermarket with something in their hand that looks like notes written on the side of what I can tell is a shopping list, and then next to is lots of little script that I know is like, it's like you saw in a magazine, saw on Iron Chef the night before, whatever, and you're like, I am going to make that. And we just get very, very rigid, which is problematic when it comes to, by the way, it's fine when it comes to chicken. One kind, right? And no one ever has walked into a supermarket in Minnesota, any other state, or anywhere else in the world and asked somebody in an apron, excuse me, can you point me to where the wild chicken is? Ever. When was the last time you asked for wild cow? Ever. Just doesn't happen, right? There is one place in the 50 states, I'll let everyone think about it, where there actually are wild cows and wild sheep that you can eat if you're lucky enough to access them. One place in the 50 states. It's the only place that still has those two species wild. If anyone answers this one, I'll buy you another book. It's a great one. It's not seafood oriented. I know. You're racking your brain already.
I know. Broken.
I'll take frozen and fresh. You take wild and farmed. Why is wild or farm not necessarily the two questions to ask? What's more important? What's more important to know or care about? And why are both fine and neither wrong?
To lay a little foundation for this, Andrew and I call myself a seafood evangelist. I would say the same of him. It's our mission to get more people eating more seafood across all demographics more often. If we did so, there would be positive public health, environmental, and economic outcomes. Just writ large, seafood is or should be what's for dinner. Right? But seafood is guilty before proven innocent in our culture, right? How many of you have read the headlines about slavery and shrimp? We've got radioactive shrimp, really horrid things. How many saw the headline that the oceans are going to be completely depleted by 2048, or that salmon are frankenfish and blah 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 when they're grown on farms? And all the headlines that we read are negative, to the point where it's become guilty before proven innocent. The seafood industry itself has picked up on that and begun sort of infighting. Why is my wild salmon better? Because all farm salmon is awful, right? Or why is my farm salmon good? Because wild salmon are disappearing. And it becomes this cannibalistic infighting market. And we've largely done this to ourselves. What we are not saying is this overwhelmingly positive narrative that seafood should be what's for dinner, right? If it was, we would have these outcomes. And so what you end up with is this false dichotomy between wild or farmed. bottom line is seafood is seafood. Seafood should be the choice that you are going into the grocery store to make at least 2 times, if not 3, 4 times a week. That narrative of wild versus
Actually,
farmed.
You've actually explained why seafood should be what we eat. Could you do that?
Sure.
Thank you.
So,
I didn't hear the question.
she asked me to explain why seafood should be what we eat.
Oh, yeah.
5 very important environmental metrics: freshwater usage, land use alterations, feed conversion ratio, meaning how much food we put into a system to get food out of it, antibiotic use, and greenhouse gas emissions. Across all 5 of these metrics, seafood at its worst comes in on par with the very best of land animal proteins. I am not anti-land animal protein. In fact, I think they are a vital and necessary part of regenerative agriculture. But seafood simply has a fin up in the sustainability game because they live, you and me and pigs and cows and chickens are all fighting gravity and atmospheric pressure. And I really do hope that no one woke up this morning and be like, oh, another day fighting atmospheric pressure. Why? Because we evolved to have big bones and lots of muscle and a ton of connective tissue just to live in a rather hostile environment. Fish? No, dude, that's cool, I float. They live in a buoyant natural environment. They are physiologically more efficient. When it comes to public health outcomes, if we were to eat seafood twice a week and replace red meat with seafood in our diets twice a week, the radical public health outcomes involve a 36% reduction in cardiac mortality incidences, an overwhelming reduction in overall mortality incidences, improvements to quality of life. Women who eat seafood, especially rich in omega-3s, while pregnant and nursing, have babies that can have up to 7.7 higher IQ points. Not only neurogenerative opportunities here, but also the cognitive protective benefits that seafood provides are just second to none. So much so that if you remember nothing else from me here tonight, the 3 S's of public health are wear your seatbelt, don't smoke, and eat seafood. It is that important. And when it comes to economic empowerment, agriculture accounts for 98% of our global food supply and accounts for 25% of livelihoods on this planet. Seafood is 2% of our global food supply and yet accounts for over 10% of livelihoods. So the outsized economic impact of seafood, the economic multiplier that foods from water have on our communities cannot be overstated. And especially when it comes to aquaculture, where 60+% of people employed by aquaculture in the developing world are women. And if you want to solve any problem there is, then the only place to start is with women's economic empowerment. Until women, 51% of the population, control 51% of the wealth on this planet, ain't shit gonna change. Right? So until you have these systems that are baked in opportunities for women, wow, okay, so seafood now becomes this generative tool, this additive tool by which our choices can create better outcomes across the board.
I'll double down on that with an international economic perspective. The green economy, land-based ag in Africa is dissolving rapidly. UN reports say that by 2050, there'll be less than 10% of the interior land in Africa will be arable, right? And the reason is it's a really hungry continent, right? And you can't tell hungry people in a hungry continent to stop farming the land. Whatever they can squeak from it, they're going to farm, right? And in so many African countries, especially in the interior, the vast majority of the people in that country, say a really powerful, big country, very successful, democratic like Zambia, 96% of the people who live in that country are smallhold farmers. 96%, right? It's insane. So as this green economy disappears, if we want to help the global economic paradigm, and believe me, I certainly hope you don't need me to tell you how important it is that we support people in other countries, because if we don't pay the bill one way, we're going to pay it another way, right? How about we empower and invest in the artisanal fisheries that surround all around. I mean, Africa's a giant island. I know it's man-made. Just go with me here. Man-made island. Is responsible. Africa's fish, some of the best fish I've ever eaten in my life have come from north, west, south, east, I mean, all over Africa. Is responsible for 4% of global fish exports. Because they just don't have the professionalized distribution systems that include things like ice and electricity, right? So people on the coast eat a lot of fish and everyone in the interior does not. And if they do, it's salted or burned until it's so dry that it has to be rehydrated for 2 days. That's just how it is, right? So there isn't a category that you can come up with where eating more seafood is not a solution, right? You know, there's 4 other big global problems that we have. I mean, you can throw immigration issues, you can throw climate, you talk about climate crisis. I mean, we can go on and on and on about it, but that's why our opinion, and we talk about this a lot, so I can speak for Barton, there is no center of the plate protein that is better for you, your community, and our planet than seafood. It just is a beautiful, beautiful product that, by the way, and we don't talk about this a lot, but we certainly talk about it together. I think the numbers are still right, correct me if I'm wrong, but 75% of the fish that's brought in by American fishermen is exported, goes away. Of what stays behind, so we hold on to 25% of what American fisheries bring in. 75% of that is eaten in restaurants. So our wish is for you to eat more seafood and do it at home. Cook it at home, right? And the other myths that we bust in our book, you know, I mean, look, please, I think you're all have a copy of it, otherwise you wouldn't have a seat here, right? Is that how this worked? So you're going to see 145 amazing recipes, plus a whole bunch of sub-recipes, so it's probably a lot more than 145. But there is a lot of wisdom throughout this book, and a 104-page introduction, something like that, that really helps you to understand how to buy, how to think about seafood, why there are all these questions, etc. about it. But at the end of the day, it's also a myth buster, because it's not just that the question shouldn't be, what was yours, wild versus farm?
Versus farmed, yeah.
Yeah. That includes fresh versus frozen, with techniques in freezing that are rampantly improved just over the last decade, to the point where I can't tell the difference. I spent my own dollars with getting some seafood the other day from 2 different resources in the Pacific Northwest, and was stunned when I defrosted them and cooked them. I had never tasted a frozen product handled so well, and I sent a note to the company and just said, you know, hey, I'm super, super, super impressed. And they said, oh, great. They sent me a couple of links to some white papers that have been done on their techniques. They're literally harvesting and freezing. The fish is still flopping around on the boat, and it's already in the freezer. I mean, it's just and by the way, taken down to such a cold temperature so quickly, no ice crystals can form in the cells of the fish itself. Kind of the exact opposite of what happened when in Grandpa in the 1950s slow froze, you know, 25 walleye fillets in a quart container of milk and put it away. Yeah, there's a lady shaking her head saying yes, that was my grandfather too.
Right.
So it really is incredible resources that we have and the opportunities that we have to eat really delicious seafood.
Would you be willing to share the names of that purveyor?
Yes, see me after the class, man.
Thank you.
So, friend Paula.
All right, so a question that we've been getting.
I shouldn't be so obtuse. There's some really great ones. One of them was a company called Loomy Island Seafood, and I'll remember the name of the other one. They're
Alright.
both up in the Pacific Northwest.
One of the great things about frozen seafood is that it becomes a convenience product as well. And I mentioned that dinner is called survival in my house on Tuesdays and many other days, right? It's a product that I can take directly from my freezer. I don't even have to thaw it. I will put it in my $100 toaster oven on my countertop. Despite being a fancy chef, having run fancy restaurants, toaster oven does most of the legwork in my kitchen, and cooking directly from frozen makes seafood a convenience food. It's a lower price point due to the lack of perishability. There's a whole host of benefits that come with frozen, so we spend a lot of time in this book sort of debunking, but also really proselytizing for why these are now solutions. Not just debunking the myth, but really selling the idea that this is the way to go, and that there are really positive attributes to a lot of these products.
By the way, he's being serious about this toaster oven shit. Okay, I mean, I love this because we say it over and over again. People always ask me, well, what do you mean by, giving us permission to? Like, it's not, people treat seafood like they're gonna break it. Like, you can't make it as good as the last time you had it at that fish shack in Florida, Texas, Seattle, Portland, wherever you last had a great seafood meal at the end of some dock where some, grizzled old person who looks like the Gortons of Gloucester fisherman hands you your platter of whatever. I'm not saying that's not great stuff. It's just seafood is really, really forgiving and easier to cook than you could possibly imagine. We gotta take questions.
Yeah, and then I want to dive into the culinary of this too. So
Well,
yeah,
feel free, but I was
with you. I had a
no.
question.
The beautiful thing for us, and I've been talking about it a lot on the stump, as it were, is that we have about 20 braised recipes in this book, right? There is nothing easier than making a sauce of some kind, a fortified broth of some kind that has texture to it, that's got vegetables and seasonings and all the rest of that anyone can make. You just follow the recipe and you're like, oh, that was really easy. And then when it's simmering, just poke your fish into it, count to 10, put a lid on it, turn the heat off underneath the fish, and walk away for 20 minutes. You come back, it's still gonna be really hot, it's not gonna be cold. As a matter of fact, steam is gonna come jumping out of the pot, but you will eat the easiest to make seafood you could ever possibly imagine at that point. It is very forgiving. You just have to start accessing the right recipes and the right wisdom by people that are on your side. That's us. That's us. We're on your side. Because our big mission is to get you to eat seafood one more time a week at home. What was your question about?
Oh, well, I'll take a question from you got right into it, so we'll take a question from the audience, and then, yeah.
Shout it out.
Did you have a question?
It's not me.
Oh.
Oh, Barton, are you looking at me?
Yeah.
I was just asking if you kept your microphone a little closer to your mouth. That's all right.
There was a gentleman in the back over there that was pumping his hand furiously.
It was me.
Asking me to put my microphone next to my face.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Nice lady in the black shirt.
Thank you, Andrew. I wonder, when you think about sustainability and environmentalism, and I'm kind of on the fence about this, but when you describe the fish just flopping around until they died, do you guys ever think about the quality of life of the animals that we might be eating?
Yeah, sure.
Is that, I don't know,
Is it an issue for me?
I don't think it's an issue for you.
I think we've known each other long enough. You know where I stand on that issue.
But I
However,
do wonder about Barton, is that something you think about?
It's absolutely something I think about. It's something I think we have control over, and it's something we need to advocate for as consumers in order for the industry to exercise that control over. Bottom line is, any animal that dies a less than instant death is going to be a lesser product at the end of this. And I don't mean to necessarily entirely commoditize them, but that is what we were talking
No,
about.
no, I
And
get
it
that,
is,
so it
I think
is sent out.
following towards, anybody who's interested in sustainability is also interested in the end result of their product, is interested therefore in the entire process. And I think a lot of these issues are sort of rolled into one, which could just be called responsible handling, right, or just responsibility. And when we exercise that in one aspect, a lot of ripples flow from it.
And by the way, the vast majority of all those fisheries that handle it well, the fish are going from a contained and controlled situations, they're not damaging their own flesh, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there isn't technical flopping around. I was referring to a vibrant life, and oftentimes go into an ice slurry. So they are literally put to sleep, which is a very, as humane a practice as there is, before then being processed so it can come to our table. But I long ago gave up the idea, although it's come back, I shouldn't say that, it's come back, because one of the big issues is with farming of octopus. There were a lot of articles about this a couple of months ago that have caused a lot of conversation that has not been taking place ever before, which is, this is, octopus is a species that some people, and there is real science behind this, believe
But they're completely
are sentient creatures.
Yeah, yeah.
So who are we to farm them? So it's gonna be a really, really fascinating debate over the next 3 or 4 years, because now we're really starting to touch a third rail of morality when it comes to why we eat what we eat. Yes?
2 questions. First question, do shrimp have feelings? Second question, as somebody that has never cooked a fish at home and is a little intimidated by it, where should I start?
The first question was, do shrimp
That
have
was a joke.
feelings?
That was a joke.
Well, I mean, it would be nice if they did. I don't believe scientifically that they do. But I don't think they like the fact that despite their size, they're still called shrimp. That I understand. And the second one is,
Beautiful answer.
if you were going to, you've never cooked fish before?
Not at home.
Not at home?
No.
Oh, God.
Cool.
This is great.
I am so
You're
thrilled
our
you're here
guy.
tonight. Yes,
You're our guy.
we did it,
Yeah,
we did it.
Barton, what would be your suggestion, then I'll give them mine.
Oh, I'm getting a double right now? This
Yeah,
is great.
yeah, of course.
Go to the fishmonger, introduce yourself. And
Cold
by
Soul.
fishmonger, I mean wherever you shop. It doesn't have to be a specialty store, though there are wonderful specialty stores. Introduce yourself to the person behind the counter. This is their day job. This is what they do. They've dedicated at least that much of themselves to it. Show them a little bit of respect. They will show you that respect in return. Ask them what they recommend. Right? Say, what's freshest and best in the counter today? That might just be, hey, today we just got it in our Atlantic salmon, and it's coming from the Faroe Islands, antibiotic-free, raised with this great feed. Like, great, cool. Nothing special there necessarily, but you are going to walk home with a piece of fish that is so fresh as to leave no doubt and to just smell right. Okay, cool. And then put it in your toaster at 300 degrees. And not the vertical toaster oven. Okay, just so you know.
Not a toaster.
Right, I'm not talking about the toaster.
Although you could do certain seafood in
Yeah,
toasters.
Next book, Andrew, next book. 300 degrees. 300 degrees. Low, slow, you can't mess it up. It's gonna take 20 minutes to get it cooked. Therefore, it's gonna take you another 10 minutes to get it overcooked. You have so much leeway. You're not vaporizing anything to put it up into the air so your house won't smell.
Might be. Not fish, though.
Well, that's a different issue for you, young man.
But, and to that myth about, oh, my house smells like fish after I cook it. It's like, oh yeah, does your house smell like bacon after you cook bacon? When's the last time you sauteed some hamburgers in your house? Guess what your house smelled like for 4 days, right? It's just that we don't. That would be my first place to start, right? Gain some confidence and competence. So like, I got this. And now I know how to walk up to the counter and receive information and take it home and succeed with that. Great. Now you have, like, that is the place to start. I'm sorry, actually start with buying our book.
Well, then you have 145 great
If you don't
recipes
write
and other ones.
confidence and confident, or
We do that, the confidence and competence.
say it again. Yeah.
But that's a really important question because so many people love seafood. I mean, the
I love
statistics bear it out. You just eat it out more often than you eat it in. And one thing about my house smells like fish. For some reason, fish, talk about presumed guilty before innocent, like that's a bad smell. I think fish smells great when it's been cooked. I will say, I have been around in homes with people where the fish should have come out from under the broiler or out of the saute pan or toaster oven a good solid hour before they were taken out. And when a lot of very oily fleshed fish are overcooked, those oils turn into steam that then leaves and floats all around. If I'm cooking seafood in my house, you probably won't notice, just because, well, number one, I turned the hood on, but number two, and it's not a restaurant hood, but number two, I don't overcook it. I cook it at the right temperature, and we talk about this a lot in our book, and that's why Barton's, just to highlight it, 300 degrees. I once watched Jacques Pepin. Someone was doing some fancy tuna tiradito piece of ridiculousness. All had no cowboy, 7,000 ingredients, none of which really went with tuna. They're just destroying this beautiful piece of fish. And he essentially took a few vegetables, minced them into a little micro dice, lay them down on a plate, put a piece of tuna on top of it, drizzled it with olive oil, sprinkled some salt on it, and put it in an oven, and then turned it to 200 degrees. And he went about talking to everybody about some things, and 30 minutes later he reached in, and no towel or cloth, and just pulled the plate out and put it down, drizzled a little more fresh olive oil and a grind of black pepper on it, just to prove a point, right? It was like 6 ingredients, and I got a chance to taste it. I was there with him, and low and slow is a way that people always talk about, like, you got to do barbecue or brisket or your mom's pot roast. Fish is really forgiving at low and slow, right? Would you say less time to make a mistake? Something like that. Yes, sir, in the back, pumping your hand vigorously.
I've gotten so much conflicting advice over the decades that I've been alive about farm raised or wild caught. And just a somewhat very easy answer, when you put it in your toaster oven, do you bake it or you broil it?
Bake.
Okay. All right, what about farm raised versus fresh?
There are really great, whenever somebody asks me this, is that the question you should be asking is, where is the fish from? Is it from a sustainable fishery? Whether it's a wild fishery or a farm system.
How do you know that? How can you
Because
tell
the
what farm?
person that you just introduced yourself to and said, hey, I'm Rudy, what's your name? What's best in the counter? One of your other questions is going to be, tell me about what's in here. Where is it from? How is it handled? Right? I've been hearing all this talk about sustainable fisheries and unsustainable fisheries. There's so many markets here, from Whole Foods to Lunds and Byerly's to Cub to Hy-Vee, that have committed, markets in our area, that have committed he's not familiar with any of these places, that have made a commitment to only put sustainably sourced fish and shellfish in their counters so that people don't have to ask that question. I still ask that question. I still ask that question at Coastal Seafoods. And that's a seafood only shop that has made a very firm commitment to that, right? There are really bad actors in the wild space. They exist. I'm sure there are bad actors in the farm space. I will say this. Wild fisheries management has changed a little bit over the last 20 years. Not a lot. The farmed fisheries have changed from here to there in the last 20 years for the good, right? 20 years ago, it took 8 pounds of salmon kibble to harvest 1 pound so that you could have it for dinner. That's an unsustainable system. There were places still using copper netting. There were places that had too many fish per cubic meter in the water. The mechanisms by which they were feeding them. I mean, you want to know a lot about a fish farm, go visit a fish farm. I've been on a bunch of them. Barton's probably been to more. They now have these distributors, capacity distributors, that allow the feed to go into the place where the fish are living, but get consumed by them, but not drop through the net ball where the fish live. And some of those net balls are really, I mean, go out to some of those wild Kampachi farms in the deep Pacific Islands, is just staggering how big these environments are. It is probably the biggest myth of all is that all farmed fish that has something wrong with it. But I will tell you, 15, 20 years ago, not a fan of farmed fish. Not a fan. Too much wrong with the industry, too many mushy fish, too much that I didn't like the flavor of. There's now, I mean, we are both in love with river and trout. I can name 3 or 4 different salmon companies around the world whose salmon I adore, right? Some people like theirs fattier, some people like theirs a little more lean. That's more of like a subspecies issue. But it really is an incredible amount of work that the farmed fisheries, I have no financial relationship with the farmed fishery, I'm just saying their growth model in terms of exerting positive influence as an industry. But I want to get back to saying Barton almost said he was leading there and almost went there. Beef, it's what's for dinner. Pork, the other white meat, right? Wisconsin cheese,
Chicken.
right?
Because. Chicken. Because.
Because, sure, whatever their line is. The fisheries industries have become, the fish is coming from all over the world. Remember we said before, one type of chicken, one type of cow, 1,000 different types of fish come into markets in Minnesota every day, right? There isn't a group that speaks for them. And that's why there's also a lot of disinformation and misinformation, because the industry doesn't speak with one voice for a lot of lousy reasons and for some understandable ones. But I think the future of getting more Americans to eat more fish is to actually speak with one voice, right? Something as simple as we should all be eating one good seafood meal more a week in our own homes than we have. And by the way, it doesn't matter, stop fighting Mr. Wild Salmon and Mr. Farm Salmon guy, you both make great product, right?
Good to know, thank you.
And that's what this book is all about. It's about giving people permission that they've lacked to fall in love with seafood, to exonerate the category where it deserves to be, and to get it onto more plates.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
another question?
Her than you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of going back to never cooking fish at home, but from a standpoint of just discovering all the different kinds of fish. I did take a look at the 104-page introduction and saw all the different types and whatnot. Can you kind of talk about if looking to get fish, but you're not on board with fish yet, like how you would use the book to navigate?
Yeah, don't go buy mackerel, one of my favorite 2 or 3 fish to eat on planet Earth as your first go round if you're just getting into eating seafood. It's like taking your kid to the sushi bar and starting him off with, tuna with fermented soybeans natto in it. It's just not gonna go well, It used to be the old line was firm white flesh fish, right? Something really, really
That's
simple.
like the only thing I found that I sort of was getting into, so that's the gateway.
Then stay there.
Okay.
Then stay there, right? I think we would be not doing our job if we heard someone who was excited about trying fish, wanted to do more with it, and tried to talk you out of the food you like. People always ask me a more generic question about cooking at home, and I always say, what are the 5 favorite things that you like to eat when you're out? And by the way, that could be tacos, it could be pizza, it could be whatever you love, start making that. So if you like mild, white-fleshed, flaky fish, guess what? You're in luck, because how many species would fall into that category?
God had a Cape Cuscaline.
Oh, stop. Probably like 700. I mean, it's just an absurd amount. We probably only have access to about 25 regularly here in Minnesota. But it's, I mean, you're in luck. You'll be eating seafood for a long time. It's great. And slowly try some other stuff out, right?
So echoing exactly what he was saying, I put it in the pithy little statement, sell the dish, not the fish.
Ooh,
So,
that's a good one.
Page
How
270.
have you been holding that? We've known each other 20 years, and you've never said those words to me. Wow, I'm hurt.
So page 270, I think, is the shakshuka monkfish. It's a spiced tomato sauce with that braised, with the, so you know exactly whatever you put into that, you know exactly what it's gonna taste like. Tacos. You know, do you love tacos? Great, then chances are you're gonna love fish tacos. When you can latch on to 90% of the identity of the dish in front of you and know that you like it already and you have that confidence and the competence in it, you're just, okay. The unknown 10%, which is the variable of today it's monkfish or today it's cod, or that same recipe works with salmon. Like, cool, right? It's those, find your gateway and begin to slowly make those changes within it.
Yeah. Yes, sir, in the back in the hat.
Yes, hi.
Shout it out.
Yes, has everybody hear me?
Yeah.
It's my speaking voice. I have like a unabashed love of like tinned fish and seafood from growing up. My dad always loved like pickled herring, which is the one that I don't like, still to this day. And I just wanted to get your thoughts. I read a little bit about the flavor differences between, say, a fresh anchovy versus tinned one. And I'm wondering, especially for those like where it's like a accessibility thing, or we're living in an area not like here, where you don't know a fisher person and don't have that relationship, what would you say are like the guidelines for navigating the tinned fish aisle? And what would you lean into? And what would you sort of pass by and wait for a fresh thing?
Well, I'll tell you, one of Barton's favorite lines is, tinned fish is the only seafood that you can buy at a gas station.
It's really sustainable and healthy food. You can, yeah.
King Oscar, sardines are at every gas station in North America.
With the mustard.
We both love tinned fish, right? And I would say kind of like what this young lady was talking about and what she likes. If you're not into clams, don't get a $40 tin this big of razor clams in a squid ink escabeche. I have a friend who did that, by the way, and then called me up and said, I don't like this. I'm like, why are you buying that? Right? But the fact of the matter is that we buy tinned fish all the time. It's called tuna. It's in the supermarket, right? Fresh anchovies are white-fleshed and very sweet. The reason tinned anchovies are tart, they've been cured in vinegar before being packed, or salty, they've been cured in salt before being packed, has to do with their flavor profile when they go in the tin. And read the tins really carefully, because nowadays tin fish are so popular that now American markets are bringing over all of the great stuff from Spain and Portugal and North Africa and France and Greece, where they are seasoned or ready with things. I'm a huge fan of taking sardines out of the tin, saving the oil for like a salad dressing or another meal, or maybe I'll use that oil with some lemon juice and mustard to make a little vinaigrette and crumble the sardines over lettuce or whatever. Just make it a salad with it. Just fantastic, easy, simple thing. The only person who loves tinned fish as much as me in the lower 48 states is my friend Barton Seaver. And that's why we had a lot of tinned fish recipes in the book, right? Because we love to do things with them, right? One last question, a fast one, and then we'll go sign books. Nice lady over there raising her hand.
What's your favorite recipe in the book?
What's your favorite recipe in the book?
Yeah.
You go first. If you say that, by the way, we both have recipes in the book, right? Okay, so we both contribute with the writer's process back and forth. We didn't collaborate and like come up with things together standing in the kitchen. Barton forgot that he had monkfish shakshuka in the book, but I made it the other night, and it was just fantastic. I love shakshuka, right? And I have a braised, well, we both have a bunch of braisey recipes in the book, and I just loved, and I think the instructions in yours, you pan-sear it.
I think so.
And I didn't. I just cut it into thin pieces and just pushed it into the sauce, right? Because I just wanted to go one pot, this is what we're doing, right? Awesome, right? I love poaching fish, which is essentially when you're braising fish, essentially what it does. I thought it was fantastic. I've done nothing but speak about this damn monkfish shakshuka for like a week. He forgot it was even his in the book, and now he's all earlier monkfish shakshuka. But go ahead, think of what's your favorite recipe in the book.
Yeah. Probably my favorite, just for the eyebrow raisingness of it, is
Agreed.
a panzanella salad. Are you familiar with panzanella? So an Italian salad whereby you use up yesterday's bread, which is now stale, as a crouton to soak up the juices of delicious summer-ripe tomatoes, spicy red onions, cucumbers, dressed with red wine vinegar, a little
This
bit
is
of
when he goes,
mustard.
ooh, ooh, ooh.
Damn. A little bit of arugula in there, right? It's this, and you can make a panzanella in autumn, where you're doing butternut squash and grapes but it's the salad that's based on croutons. And I take the croutons out. Instead of the croutons, I use fish sticks. Straight out of the toaster oven, just cut up into pieces, and here you have it.
Toaster oven again. Available at bartonseaver.com.
Yes. Shakshuka sauce, $19.99.
The beauty, I'll be honest with you, I love that recipe too, for 1,000 reasons. And mostly, he says eyebrow raising. I just think we have so many recipes. I mean, we're fancy restaurant chefs. We just don't have that job today, right? And I have a recipe in there for, talk about tinned fish, tuna noodle casserole. Minnesota tuna noodle casserole. Even though I'm from New York.
She just gave the book
Yeah.
back.
So, but the point is that it's democratic in the best sense of the word. Small d, it's not a political statement. You have to be really careful with this. The point is that we don't take ourselves so seriously in this book. There's a whole chapter on caviar. Okay, so we can swing that other way as well. But we have fish stick, panzanella, and we have, that book, I put that there for you. Help yourself. Our gift from the people at Neighbors and Quinn for you. And tuna noodle casserole. I love and don't think Americans do enough steaming of seafood. And so I have a recipe in there. It's steamed black bass. It has 3 other ingredients there. Soy sauce, little ginger, little scallion. I think I'd give some recommendation. You add a drizzle of sake. You can add a little bit of a drizzle of Chinese black vinegar if you like. You want to go with just a little more acidity with it. And you don't need a fancy anything. You just need a pot and a plate. And just put a ½ inch of water in and put the fish on a plate and turn it on and let it go for 10 minutes and take the plate out and put the stuff on top of it. It's, phenomenal. And the reason I like that is, I love eating that, but it's more about what it represents. Limited number of ingredients, anyone can do it. You're buying a whole animal. We both believe in eating really far down on the food chain, right? Don't eat a giant bluefin tuna, it's like eating a Bengal tiger, right? How about clams and mussels and seaweed and smaller fish that grow to size within a year, that live within a mile of the seashore? Let's eat as far down the food chain as we possibly can, because that's better for our environment as well. Nice lady in the black shirt in the back. We're gonna go sign books.
Before you go, do you have a book back there you wanted to hold up?
Well, this is his other.
Yeah.
Barton likes to go to bookstores and put his phone number into copies of I
One
have
800 toaster oven.
every copy of Forgotten Country comes with its own toaster oven.
Well, if I could just close it out, feeding people is an act of love. It's an act of kindness. As we damn well know, the world needs a whole lot more of that. That you're sitting here tonight, interested in this talk, means that you are interested in spreading love, and I really appreciate that about you, and I encourage you to do as much of it as you can. Food really is the great connector, and I'm so thrilled to be connected to you through our efforts in food, and I really look forward to the ripples that come from this as you take your newfound love, permission, competence, and confidence in seafood forward. So thanks for coming.
I just like to